Okay, hello everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn and I run the services at MedComms which provide information and event activity and various services for people who work in and around medical communications across the globe, medical education, medical communications, medical publishing. And one of the things we're doing at the moment is running these Zoom webinars, which is a great way of reaching out to many more people than can attend our physical meetings. And wherever possible, we will record these webinars and post them on NetworkPharma TV, where you can find a whole load of videos now on all sorts of subjects. So today, I'm absolutely delighted to have Louise Sharp and Angie Wiles with us. And we're going to be talking about virtual working. And I guess what I'm trying to do is talk about different ways of working. Virtual, means slightly different things to different people, I suppose. So we'll explore this a little bit more in depth. But I've asked both of them to come in and talk to us about their businesses, how they've set the businesses up and the philosophy behind it, as a way then of leading into a discussion about these different working practices. So without further ado, can I hand over to Louise, who is going to talk first. Louise, over to you.
Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen. So has that worked? It has. Excellent. Well, hello, my name is Louise Sharp and I'm the owner and managing director of Makara Health. And we like to challenge thinking. That's one of the things that we do with What If. So I'm going to take you through literally a fly through the company, because I've been given at least 7 minutes. And obviously any agency likes to have many more slides than that. So I'm going to give you a quick fly through of Makara and really why I set it up in the way that I did. Having previously run the more traditional style agency. So I set the company up really to really get back to grassroots. In my previous agency, we grew it to quite a size. It was a traditional agency where everybody was expected to be in the office. It was a lovely company to work with, a great team. But certainly from my perspective, as the company grew, I stopped doing a lot of the work. It was more about new business, going out and pitching, win business, hand it over to another team, and often a more junior team. And my passion is marketing, PR, training, education, and I wanted to get back to doing what I loved, and that's working with senior teams and doing a lot of the work and having that client contact. And so I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we could create something that was agile or a different working model? So this lovely question, what if? A lot of my training over the years, I continue to do training in neurolinguistics, NLP, psychology, and we all ask the questions, why, what, when, who, what, etc. But the one that really fascinated me was the idea of curiosity and what if, and what next, and what if we do and what if we don't. Because what if really opens up opportunity and difference. And so the little questions that I asked myself were, what if an agile agency model could provide clients with access to the senior delivery team every time? Because I don't think it's actually very hard with the traditional structure to always offer that senior team. You've got an awful lot of people there also wanting to train up and learn. And what if that senior team was given the trust and flexibility to work wherever and however they wished? So the background to that, a lot of medical writers have always been given that the freedom to work from home and have that freedom, but then the account team were always expected to be present in the office because you can't run teams remotely. Well, we're going to challenge that, I think, today, both of us, in that you can, and we do, and it works really well. And then for Makara, what if that team had, the team of senior delivery team had a full project finance support set up in an office space? It's a small office space in a cost-effective approach, so that senior team can really be as efficient as they can in terms of delivering. So what we did was we set up, well, obviously right at the beginning, a couple of us set up this agile working model, very much at the very beginning virtual. We kept it virtual for probably a year, and then we started to think, well, actually, we might have a little office space as well. But the philosophy is keep that agile as core to our approach. So agile in structure, agile in mindset, and agile in everything that we do. So it's really challenging the norms. What if we don't go and sit in the office every day? I certainly know that all of our clients don't. You know, one of the places I work best from is trains, because I'm incredibly nosy. I love listening to conversations, but I'm not involved with them. So, you know, we can work anywhere and you can be efficient. It's more about understanding ourselves and what we want as drivers. I know certainly in my younger years, I wanted to be in an office and learn and have that mentorship. But as I've got older, I wanted the flexibility to work with like-minded people. I had a family. Things were different, and therefore set up a company that offered that difference. I mentioned the psychology. We are agile in our responses, looking at the beliefs that are driving behaviour in all the programs that we do. And the important one is the agile structure, and it's the benefit. We're looking at the benefits for the clients, and I'll show you a few client quotes a little bit later. But it's really looking at the team, how they can respond, how they can be there. Maybe not quite 24/7, because none of us really want to have that 24/7 around the clock. But how we can, you know, still offer that big agency experience in terms of people always around into the evening, but in a much more flexible, trusting, responsible way. And then, importantly, how can we offer that to the team who's actually delivering? So our people are obviously key to all of this. So we have an agile team. This is some of the core team. I would say probably a third of them work in an office. Everybody else works from home all over the place. We've got people in different countries. We've got people north, south, east and west, and that is sort of the core hub of the team. And then what's nice, because of the agile structure, we can expand and contract as we want to. So we have mainly employed team, but they work from home. We have some contractors, we have some freelancers, we have some suppliers. So again, it's really not vastly different to the traditional structure, but there isn't the requirement to put your jacket onto the back of a seat and actually be seen to be in the office. Our solutions, we offer brand work, engagement, communications. So my colleagues, my director colleagues in the management team head up these 3 different areas. And as with all agencies, you're looking to actually then create that and look at the programs and the outcomes. But it comes down to people by people. And so it's those senior people, which is, it's nice to have that mix and that overlap, because we don't go out and sell one thing. We're looking at solutions. We're looking at how it all dovetails together. Which creates some lovely programs. We had our regular, well, we actually have 3 of them a year, all company get together recently, and we asked the team, what is working for you? Because again, it's always good to reflect 6.5 years on from setting it up. Is it still working? Are we able to continue this as the company grows? It's certainly the question that I ask myself a lot, because obviously you're managing a different kind of setup. But the feedback was the team loved the flexibility, they love the autonomy, and ultimately at the core of everything is trust. And you can read the rest, but they just said, well, we're a nice bunch of people, aren't we? So, of course we are. I thought I'd just touch on this very briefly, because I'm sure we'll come back to some of this in questions, but every model does come with its challenges. And the challenges that we have certainly seen are in terms of team bonding during the induction process. We've seen some people going, oh my God, I've got cabin fever, or feeling a little bit isolated. Obviously, if you're working from home, you've got your IT setup, home setup, and brainstorms. So we've addressed, I would say, 3 out of 4 really well, and we're still working on the last one. In the team bonding inductions, we have one-to-ones, we have Skype, we have a really clear program now, so that's working for us. Isolation, I don't think anybody now would say we're isolated, because we're always on a Slack chat or a WhatsApp group, or because technology is so great now, it works for us. IT issues and setup, because we have the office team, they take a lot of that weight, and so we have outsourced HR, because we don't necessarily want to have that in-house, but we have finance, IT and admin and project support, so that the senior team really can be the people who do the work. Brainstorms, I'm still yet to find a better way to brainstorm than to sit in the room and have a flip chart or go out for a walk or whatever. However, we do it depending on the size of the account that we're pitching for and how long we need to pitch, how long we need to brainstorm. Slack chats and face-to-face WebExes. Face-to-face typically works better, even if you can't do it face-to-face in person, then maybe through a WebEx or a Skype. We know the model works for our clients. We reach out to them regularly, ask what's going well, we ask what's not going so well, we fix things where we can. That agile structure is if the team isn't quite working, or if maybe if the project has moved on and we need to adjust that team, then we can do. We also know the model's working well because we get about 85% repeat business, which is fantastic. And the company's growing, so it's a really exciting place to be. Our partners, we work with a lot of the big, medium, some small, some startup. There's a whole flexibility of offering. Then it really comes down to capacity and growth of the company. So our client partners are here. And my question really back to everybody at the end of the presentation is, what if you had questions for us about the whole sort of remote working setup? And what does it really mean to you? And that's me. So over to you, Angie.
Angie, remember you're on mute.
Right, unmuted. Right, so let me go back to share. Sorry. There we go. There we go. Can you see that? Yeah, you're all on mute.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angie Wiles. I am founder and head of the Difference Collective. I echo a lot of the learnings and insights that Louise shared in terms of her model, although our model works in a slightly different way. I guess Louise has been established in the marketplace working in this way for slightly longer than we have. The Difference Collective is 2 years old, and I think we've probably learned quite a lot in those 2 years, but we maybe have the benefit of coming to market with some of the newer technologies and maybe some slightly different ways of doing things. I don't think either is right or wrong, but I think it's good to learn the lessons. And I could see some of the comments and suggestions of different ways to brainstorm in the notes. So I'll pick up on that in a minute, because I do think there are different ways that you can do that. So, right, come on, slide. There we go. So my background, similar to Louise, and we knew each other in our former days, was very much traditional agency, large scale, became very much, I think, a hamster wheel of constantly having to pitch to bring business in order to keep growing an organisation, to create opportunities for personal development for the teams and to allow them to grow. However, when I felt that there's been a real exodus of senior healthcare talent from the healthcare comms industry that is creating, to some degree, a talent vacuum. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day. There's definitely a bit of a vacuum around the SAM AD level in terms of good talent. And I think we all know, when we listen to benchmarking presentations, it's talent that is the number one challenge for clients and agencies alike. I do think there's an increasing expectation and demand for flexibility, and there's lots of reasons for that, whether that is geography, people moving out of London but still wanting to work in the same industry, some family, elderly parents, young families, some people who are pursuing further education and re-qualifying for a second career in parallel to trying to work. And some just a choice that people have made to work differently, but they do not want to work in a corporate 9 to 5. although there is no such thing as a 9 to 5, or they are bored sensors by the pressures of you need to get your jacket on the back of your seat, and nobody can be the first to take it off. I think there are frustrations for clients too in terms of having that access to senior counsel. We know that lots of traditional agencies are shaped like this. Our models, I think, are much more like this. That's not to say I don't think that either of us are against investing time in training and developing junior staff, but I think, you know, we've invested a lot of time in our careers doing that. And personally, I'm really enjoying working with like-minded people, super talented people who challenge and inspire me day in, day out. And yeah, that's just our model. That's not to say that there isn't room for that training and learning and development to still happen. I do think that some agencies are lacking that specialist niche skill base because of that pyramid structure. They don't have the wherewithal to bring in that senior talent across all of the disciplines that we know agencies now need. And it's also hard for teams to upweight quickly. They're like super tankers, and it takes a long time for them to turn around, to onboard. And I think I reflect that belief in the agility that Louise said is really important. So for us, the difference just offers clients the ability to connect clients and agencies with the best talent in healthcare comms, delivering great results fast and flexibly. So really, we are a talent kite mark. We work differently, put teams together differently, and we structure our costing in a different way. So the key thing is, and I think somebody asked a question about, doesn't that create a very long recruitment process? Not necessarily, but we do invest quite significantly in the HR process, ensuring that everybody is fully interviewed twice, that we take up references, we look at examples of their work, etc. So by the time people are part of our collective, we are able to recommend them to onboard to clients very quickly. They're under contract and NDA with us, so that means that clients can have access to senior resource when they need, where they need. They have the ability to turn it up, turn it down, turn it on, turn it off, and to mix and match the skill base that they need. We try to cut out a lot of the bureaucracy. We don't spend time in unnecessary meetings because we're obviously not in the same buildings together. So the meetings that we do have tend to be pretty focused. And for us, we use Zoom for that. The one thing that I would say is we do brainstorm online. And I, having spent years in agencies turning up late for brainstorms because you're running from another meeting, you haven't read the brief, you haven't given it the time of day, rubbish brainstorm, you don't get the results that you need. I find that our team are super focused, super productive. They know if they are inputting that it should be a valuable exercise for everybody involved, and they come with tons of ideas. We do it in half an hour. It's a very structured process, and I think it's just a real example of the mentality of people who've made a choice to work differently. They know they're only ever as good as their last piece of work. I think they're highly productive. They're not distracted, but if they're making an effort to input into something, then they want to make it their best. We offer clients 3 different ways to work with us, whether that is people that will go on in-house placements, either in agency or in a healthcare company for periods of time. We offer a range of training packages, and the most common way that people work with us is that we put purpose-built teams together remotely to provide them with the expertise that they need as and when. So that may flex. We'll have a project manager that will lead a project, but we may be using corporate media relations people at some point, copywriters at other points. So we pull in the experts as we need. We operate in a range of areas, and this is our current working groups in terms of areas that we focus on. So creativity, content, social, digital, internal, biotech, charity, consumer health. We are also just launching our MedComms offer. I saw David is on the line, and he's working with me and the rest of our MedComms team to put a more robust MedComms offer out into the marketplace for those clients that are looking for different solutions. I just thought I'd talk a little bit about how it works in practice. So these are some of the clients that we have worked with, so both agency and industry, some biotech, some consumer health, a real kind of end-to-end array, some charity, and this is just a very small example of one of the clients that we have worked with. And the reason for sharing it is it's a very small biotech company who came to us and asked for help communicating a very difficult product and piece of science. And the team worked really hard to help them in terms of their messaging and their positioning, and training them to be self-sufficient as best they can. And then now we work with them from a media perspective just to help them optimize key milestones, with a view to helping them garner another round of investment, which has happened very successfully. So I think that's just an example of different people that we've had. Social and digital people involved in that project. We've had the prescription PR team, the copywriters, and there again, I think is just an example of the different types of work and the different ways that clients can engage with us, whether that's internal comms, whether that's consumer health and media relations, or whether it's launch preparedness and media execution. And I think that's probably me, and my time is up. So I would just summarize, say, I think there are huge amounts, huge benefits of working differently. But equally, it's not without its challenges at times. What I didn't say was, we use Basecamp as our platform for managing work online, along with Google Drive. But I do think there are huge benefits and extremely high productivity, brilliant results. I agree. A lot of our clients are now working remotely and agilely anyway. So a lot of those questions about wanting to work with a traditional agency, I think we can equally offer those benefits. I think there's room for all, but I'd be really interested to discuss it more.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Angie. Can we lose the slides and we'll just go back to the videos? And this for the audience, as I started the meeting by saying, we're going to have an hour Q&A, which is sort of dependent on you guys asking some questions, making some observations. We'll talk for maybe 10, 15 minutes or so before we finish recording. But then don't run away. Those of you online, please don't run away. We'll carry on talking through to the top of the hour. We've already actually had quite a few comments coming in during the presentations. As I said, it'd be great to have some more, but let's just pick up on a couple of obvious points, see where we go with this. Just to clarify, I might as well start with this one, which is something I'm sort of interested in. Both of you are talking about your senior teams, your senior experienced people, and that sort of implies that you don't take on the entry-level type writers and account managers and so on. And I can understand the arguments for that, although it begs the question, where do the juniors sort of get trained up, sort of thing. But what's your observation on maybe the way things are going? Is it, and why might there be challenges in bringing junior people into this environment? Is it as obvious as they haven't got the experience, they have, it's just they need mentorship training and whatever, and there will always be that sort of gulf, therefore there just needs to be a way of specifically handling those people. Does that make sort of sense? Angie, you're nodding. Can you sort of speak to that one a little bit?
Yeah, sorry, and I'm trying to catch up with the comments as well because I couldn't see them while the presentation was on the screen. I just want to say I in no way am looking to not big agencies. I think there's room for everybody, boutique, niche, specialist, talented agencies, big agencies that can offer that bigger infrastructure and that training ground. We don't employ anybody below account director level deliberately, because we are looking for people to be self-sufficient and to have a certain degree of expertise to be able to deliver the quality of work that we feel our clients are looking for. That doesn't mean that I'm not a huge advocate of learning and development and developing those juniors, but I think probably that is better suited to an environment where people are in the office together and they can learn through osmosis, but through structured training programs. And I don't think that virtual working is the best place for that. I think you have to have experienced working in an office setup before you can work in this kind of setup, personally.
Okay, Louise, you got a comment?
Yeah, I was also going to add that, there isn't really one agency structure that suits all. And I think, we all have our place there. A virtual, smaller, medium-sized, whatever setup will go and will win different work to the network agencies potentially. What I do see, whilst we might not be actually recruiting the account managers, the account execs, and developing it and training them up, what we are doing is giving access to people who don't want to go and work in the larger agencies anymore. So we're actually accessing talent, providing a different group that aren't necessarily being served quite so well now with the opportunity to work. So whilst we might not be structured to bring on all of the juniors anymore, because I think both of us have done that, been there and enjoyed it, it's a personal choice to do something differently for our lifestyles as well. So, there are lots of reasons for doing these things.
And to put it, there's a sort of a question here. Let's put it a bit provocatively. I mean, at the end of the day, who does the junior type tasks sort of thing? Is it the senior people who think this is great fun because I've got my hands dirty again? And to pick up on a question that came in quite early, does that make you quite expensive?
I saw that question, and hello, Matt. No, it doesn't, because when you're looking, different agencies have different setups. So the larger agencies probably have large offices which need to be paid for. They have London waiting and etc. We do have offices, and we have offices which are growing because we see the need for an office space. But we're based in Salisbury, which is not really, it's hardly London, it's only an hour or so away, but it offers an ability to have a project and admin and support team in the office to support. But yes, all account people are responsible for knowing how to use PromoMats and Zinc and getting involved if there is some support in the office that is there and more relevant to be used, then we will be. But we do all like to get our hands dirty as well, and quite frankly, I think we all should.
Okay, and that's part of the fun of it. Sorry, Angie, go on.
No, I was going to say, we have administrators that provide that level of administrative support that we might need to make projects happen. But often I find that people that work in this way are relatively self-sufficient, and they're people who love PR and comms, or they love MedComms, and they actually, one of the reasons why they are working for themselves, which I didn't say, all of our, we don't have an employed staff at all of our consultants are self-employed. One of the reasons that they become self-employed is because they actually want to go back to doing what they do. So, we may mix teams up, and I do think we still learn a lot from each other, and maybe at some point we will need to introduce another layer. I'm not against that, but I think we just have to be very careful about how do we nurture and develop and support that level, because I think they probably need it more than the senior talent that's more established and experienced.
Okay. I mean, a common theme to this is going to be horses for courses, isn't it? And you can see from some of the comments that people are sort of making the point things can work in different ways in different places, and that's being acknowledged by all of us. I don't think that's a problem, but these differences are real now, and I think you don't have to go back many years, and some of us are trying to work virtually, but the technology didn't allow it. I've always found personally the mindset is the biggest problem, if there's a problem with people, rather than technology. And I've got a big soapbox at the moment about how I can quite frequently find myself here on a Friday and there's nobody there to answer a phone and things like this. I mean, all this flexible working, all this agile working, all however you define it and whatever you say, but we're in a service business and we're all supposed to be there for the clients. And I just wonder, or I sit here sometimes and wonder whether some people are losing sight of that, to be honest. I mean, you must have found some challenges in that, and especially, you've either got, you're either virtual, wholly virtual or semi-virtual sort of thing. The nagging doubt that people aren't going to be responding when they need to respond and things. And I clearly you're both going to say, but it works, you find the right people. But how much of a problem do you find people going, well, hey, I can do it this way, and then actually find they can't because they haven't got that mindset? Do you know what I mean? So how many people actually come on and go, me, and you end up going, actually, no, sorry, but you're not going to fit into this. Do you find that a big challenge, or is it not a challenge in practice? And again, Angie, you kick off. What a view on that?
I wouldn't say a big challenge. I think it is something to be aware of. I think people, I utterly respect and encourage people to make choices about working in the way that works for them. And, you know, some people may choose to work 9 till 2, 3-4 days a week. And, you know, frankly, 4 or 5 hours of some of those brilliant people a day is worth gold dust to me and to the clients. But I think they have to be very clear about what projects they can take on during that time frame. And you know, if we're working with a client that needs 5 days a week access, then that's not right for them. So yeah, I think they need to be honest with me in terms of their accessibility and my core team. Equally, you know, we have and I do think some clients, when we very initially set up, were questioning, you know, are we just a bunch of mummies who just want to work around school hours and sit around in our gym kit drinking tea and coffee? I would say, you know, the people that work in this way work incredibly hard in an incredibly focused manner. I don't care. Some people want to work through the evening, as long as they're clear with me what they're going to deliver and when they're going to deliver, and they're available for the client that they need to be available for and when they need to be available, then I don't have an issue. But there are plenty of people in the collective that are available. I wouldn't say 24/7, but probably more readily, I think, than some people who work in a traditional agency setup. So I think that it's just about transparency and it's about trust. So it goes back to what Louise said in her presentation.
And Louise, sorry, can I just focus in on, you've got a team in the office, you've got a team who are sitting at home in their gym jams or whatever the imagination allows you to think. Is there a conflict there? I mean, I'm being a bit blunt here, but do you find there are issues there with people, you know, thinking the other side is actually, you know, getting the better deal, as it were?
I haven't experienced that at all, you know, not at all, because, you know, if you have the mindset to be agile, you know, if somebody from the office needs to work from home, we all have internet, they can work from home. We just find that support function fits better in an office. People dip into the office. So we've got some of our account team who choose to work at home 3 days a week, and they choose to go to the office a couple of days a week because they want that connection. I'm rarely in the office, but then I'm typically on a plane going somewhere to a meeting or a pitch or a client, whatever. So I think so long as the trust is there, the respect is there, that we're not, you know, not taking the mickey, we're all working incredibly hard, and it's very transparent. You know, we all see exactly what's going through. We have lead projects, we have co-pilots who support, so if somebody's off sick or on holiday. So we have all, I think both of us, because we've worked in the larger agencies and know the setup and structure that you need, you just transfer that across and make it work for smaller, you know, different working styles.
Good. I mean, I can come up with various stories, but you know, a classic one not so long ago was me dealing with someone in an organisation. Thought everything was thought everything's fine. She wanted something sent to her a couple of days before the event. I sent it, didn't hear back, rang up, found out she was on holiday. I said, well, look, that's a bit of a surprise. But more problematic was I was talking to a colleague and I said, well, has nobody actually checked her email account, because what she wanted is there and we're running a meeting in a couple of days. And they said, no, we can't access each other's email accounts. I mean, that sort of silly little simple thing, I put my neck on the line here slightly and say that you have, again, it's about mindset. You know, if you're going to work in these sorts of ways, you have to change some of your mindset versus some of the more traditional agency setups who may not think about some of those practicalities. You know, they go away, they put themselves on auto, I'm out of office type respondent, or not in the case of the person I was dealing with, and just go away and that's it. And that sort of thing, that's you've got to think that one through and maybe get burnt a few times before you sort of really think it through.
Yeah, can I just comment on that? I mean, I think what you're saying is absolutely right in terms of mindset, and it is something that we consider. But there are process ways to get around that sort of thing. So, you know, we have email groups that the client will copy in, or the email group, just so that we know that somebody in the office, or the co-pilot, the writer, they will all see the emails. We have them filtered through to a subfolder, so you don't have to look at them all the time, but you can. So I think it's about having backup solutions, but I think that actually is across all agencies, not necessarily just the different model agencies.
Yeah, and I mean, you'd like to think so. I just think that it's surprising how often you fall across problems where it hasn't actually been taken into account. And I was surprised. There was a survey that was run in May. We've had presentations on it recently. Healthcare Communications 2019. Something like 76% actually of people, you know, responding to that survey are saying that they, you know, one of the main benefits is they can work from home. So again, you know, this is not something. And to pick up on a couple of the comments here, we're not talking about virtual agencies versus big agencies. We know there's a lot of agile work going on here. It's a question of how far you go, and there is a fairly fundamental, or seems to be a fairly fundamental idea that medical writers, it's fine because you can go off and you can write your manuscript, and that's great because you concentrate on that. Whereas account management staff, maybe, you know, it's more important. They're in the office, they're meeting people, they're hearing the gossip around the water coolers or whatever it is. Both of you presumably would basically say that distinction is not necessary, and that everyone can work virtually.
Yeah, and can I can see some of the comments about the agency models. A lot of us have worked in big agency models, and we are in no way not appreciating that there is a huge role and for the bigger agencies, and they have made a huge impact. I just think that people can make a choice about how they want to work, and at different life stages, working in a different way may work for different people. Personally, I reached a point where I felt, and I saw some of the comments here, that in a big agency, the further up I went, the more I moved away from the client business and spent more time dealing with HR and operational and finance issues, which I'm perfectly capable of doing, but that's not why I got into this industry in the first place. And I wanted to get back closer to actually working with the clients, but it's a choice for all of us. So, but I also wanted to pick up on some of the other questions around learning and development, because you're right, you know, in the big agencies you do have access to more readily available training, learning, development opportunities, access, I think, to all kinds of different expertise. Whereas I think, you know, if I'm honest, there are drawbacks to the way that we work. You know, we have to think in quite a structured manner about how we engage our team, how we ensure that we offer that training and development. You know, ultimately, with a big agency or a small agency, a more traditional structure, you know, people are fully employed. Therefore, you're able to all work together towards a common cause, to make choices together. Whereas, you know, my workforce are not all employed at all. So ultimately, the only person that's accountable is me. That can be challenging at times. You know, I don't have 100% of people's time available to me. They have other commitments. That can be good and bad. So we're in no way evangelizing this way of working. It's just we think that there is room for this model for those people that have made that choice, that they want to work differently now.
Okay. Louise, did you want to add anything to that?
I absolutely concur. I mean, we have slightly different models in terms of employed versus you know, self-employed individuals, and so the different companies will have different ways of approaching it. You know, when you employ people, you have a duty to those people to develop them. So we go through, as with any larger agency, any agency, we have a learning and development plan for individuals. It is more difficult when you're working with contractors who are limited companies in their own right, simply from a legal perspective, and actually offering them training, because that is for them to do. But then, you know, when you're all working together, there has to be that common development, and you want to learn together. So it's just finding your way with it. But I completely concur that you know, there's room for everybody. And I think, you know, just looking at different options and how different people work, I can't see the downsides of it, because all the others still exist. It's just options.
I had lunch yesterday with the MD of one of the big MedComms agencies, and she said that she felt really strongly that definitely agile working is here to stay, and there's much more support for flexible working in their setup. But she felt really strongly that you have to do a minimum of 3 days a week in the office. Otherwise, it makes it very difficult for the clients and the teams. And I guess that just plays to their model and their way of working, and what they, the leadership they're looking for on site, the development for the team. And she said after 6 months of returning, they prefer people to go to 4 days a week.
Again, okay.
Courses
for courses. Okay. One comment that came up earlier on. I mean, home working can sound, and we've touched on it a few times, I suppose. But home working can sound very attractive, and that survey I mentioned earlier, 76% of people working at home. But it was also the favourite benefit. It was 60-70% of people wanting to work from home. Again, I just question what sort of problems come when somebody goes home and wakes up on a Monday morning, and maybe not fully appreciating the discipline that's required, the extra effort that's required to talk to people and so on. And again, I'm trying to just draw a bit of a distinction between the sort of, let's call it more traditional agency. I mean, I think some of these words are not particularly helpful, but, if you're sort of in an agency where the writer's allowed to go and work at home a couple of days a week or something like that, or remotely, and that's fine because the internet allows it, and you can email your document and also, that's very different to working virtually. And you've touched on some of the platforms that you've got, your Zoom and Basecamp and so on. But how important is that to making a difference between someone working remotely when they want to and if they have to, versus actually working properly virtually?
Can I, if I just try and answer that one, I truly haven't experienced that issue, because it comes with a mindset. If you want to work from home, you will have created a space where you want to be, where you feel comfortable. You'll have that time management in your mentality. If you give people flexibility, you get it back in bucket loads. So if you wake up in the morning and you feel rubbish, and then don't work for 3 hours. Just do it some other time. I think it's when virtual or agile or flexible is the norm, then it works, because people can go to an office or come together. I think it's because, and this isn't slating any agencies, the norm in traditional agencies is you go into work, and therefore agile or flexible, because it's seen as such a benefit, seems not quite fitting into the norm, and therefore some of the is it fair, does it work? But when agile work is the norm, we use Dropbox for Business because it's GDPR compliant. People sync their documents. We have, I don't know if we've got lots of young people online, but it's almost like having celebrity squares when we have our WebEx on a Tuesday morning. The person at the top, next one down. So we do all the same things that the large agencies do. We just work differently to do it.
Okay. Angie, have you got a final comment on that before we sort of wrap up the recording part of this? And it's very positive, very positive. Let's stay positive, Angie.
No, I think I probably already said it. I completely agree with Louise. It's about a mentality and a mindset. Maybe it's about a life stage for some people. I think working differently, you definitely need to be highly productive, focused, self-sufficient, driven, motivated. Know what you're good at, surround yourself with the tools and expertise that you need, but put yourself in an environment like either of ours, both of ours. You can easily join both of ours. Put yourself in an environment where you're surrounded by other people that are still going to feed you and inspire you, and make you feel less isolated, more included, so that you do have access and opportunity to input into bigger projects, and just working differently, learning differently. No model is right or wrong, but I think there's a place for all.
Okay, cool. Let's, if I may, I'm going to draw a line on this sort of recording part of the conversation. To those of you listening to us online, please don't all run away, because we're The three of us are certainly happy to stick around for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes to carry on answering your questions. I think it's fascinating discussion, and it's fascinating also to see some of the comments and questions. You know, it is very much, we've said it several times, horses for courses, and there are different models, and there's probably a lot more detail that we could go into, but I think it's fascinating to think about these different ways of working. So I appreciate both you, Louise, and Angie, for coming and joining us today. Thank you very much. If we can just say goodbye to everybody for the recording, I'll stop recording. A little wave and a smile, and we'll say bye-bye. Whoa, actually pushed the wrong button.